Well, Luke, thank you. I appreciate you being a part of this interview process and helping us reflect a little bit on the
Sure.
coaching program. It's hard to believe that you finished the program and you're on to new adventures.
Oh
Congratulations.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I was just talking about it with my wife this morning how this has been a big learning and like hugely beneficial process.
Great. Well, let me begin by asking you, tell us briefly about how you serve people, your role and what you do day in and day out.
Sure. So I function as COO of our international ministries and we were primarily based in Manila. And so one of the many hats that I wear is developing and mentoring and coaching and training leaders, high level leaders, as well as ground level leaders. But most of my leadership development, I focus on leaders of leaders.
Okay.
And so a lot of my time is spent in looking over, especially new church plants and new church planners and working with them in those details and then working with different directors of different, I guess, departments or ministries and not problem solving, but definitely a lot of vision casting, a lot of, okay, what can we look forward to? What are some things that we should or shouldn't expect? What's holding us back? Why have we seen this kind of growth? Why have we not seen this kind of growth? And so a lot of that kind of high level leadership planning out for the next year and a half. And so that's where I spent a lot of my time and energy.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. Starting with this one, what problem or challenge did you have in your leadership growth before you discovered our certified coach program?
I Part of it is scale is the problem I thought of scaling. So we're scaling on multiple different areas of our organization and our ministry. But one area that has not been scaling has been in we had always been calling it coaching, pastoral coaching.
Mhm.
And a lot of that was really pastoral mentoring and advising more than anything, because we have a desired outcome that we want to achieve with our pastors and with our church plants, metrics, things like that. And so one of the things I had realized before we gotten into this was I can't do it by myself. I have to develop other church planting coaches,
Sure.
and so this has really kind of given me a framework to, and I've already started using it
Great.
in dialoguing with pastors as well as helping the men that I'm bringing into my circle as fellow church planting coaches
Mhm.
to say these are the kind of questions we need to be asking.
Good. Now, as you think about the challenge that you had, the frustration, what did it feel like as you were trying to solve that problem before you started the coach training program?
Um, well, I felt like I was making a little bit of progress, but I was just kind of figuring my own way
Mhm.
and leaning on the experience of other leaders who have led me, and that's kind of what I was doing. So that, you know, self-propagated limitations is really kind of what it came down to, is I'm just limited by my own personal limitations and my time and if I wasn't able to make a coaching session um with the church planner, then the whole meeting was off. And I'm like, we can't do that. We got to keep making forward progress. It can't just be limited by one leader. So
Yeah, we just can't shut everything down because you're not
no,
there. And yeah, that's not, and to your point earlier, that's not scalable.
no.
What did you find different or and is inspiring about our program?
Um, it kind of was an aha moment early on in in the program. We'd listened to several videos and a lot of it was just like my instant question when I'm learning something new is how does this really work? How does
Mhm.
this, yes, I can learn the mechanics and the technical side of it, but like what does this really look like in life and in experience and in practice?
Yeah.
And it was during the one of the first times where I heard either you were coaching or we did a sample coaching or like I don't know if it was a mentor coaching lab or something, but it was an early one. And we were all just kind of like, okay, we don't know what we're doing, but we were forced to try it in front of everybody. And for me, that's not intimidating. I find that kind of challenging and fun. And so, but I'm sitting there listening and either I was either doing it or I was listening to somebody else do it. And the client in the practice format came to their conclusion on their own. And I was like, where is this coming from? I've never experienced anything like this before. It's always people coming with the problems and expecting me to come up with a solution or a piece of advice or something. And very much like a help me situation. And this was help yourself, help yourself. Let me show you how you can find it from within you. And that was really like light bulb inspiring. Okay, this changes everything. I immediately actually my dad is the head of our organization, and we were having some trouble with a particular pastor who really just kind of wanted to do his own thing.
Mhm.
We have no problem with that, but the problem was he wasn't following any of the structural safety nets and things like that. He wasn't reporting properly and things like that. And so finally, this just by listening to this, both of us were like, "Oh, we can go to him and say, so what do you really want? Like, what's really important to you here?
That's right.
Why is this important that you're not reporting, or what are we missing? Tell me what I'm not seeing." And so a lot of the questions that came up in the formatting, I was like, dude, I'm going to use this all day long.
Yeah,
So,
that's great. And it's interesting because you actually answer the next question, which is take us to the moment when you realized our certified coach program was actually working to solve
mm.
your problem. So you answered the question.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, and actually, I think even more so. I was talking with my wife about the program this morning, and I think it actually was going to make me a better negotiator as well,
Mhm.
um, because you start to ask questions differently. If time is more important than the cost of the product or the project, then quit negotiating on price and start
Yeah,
working out time. And if
that's
it's
right.
vice versa, okay, then I'll make the money work, but it's going to take longer. It could
Yeah.
take longer, and or hybrid. And so that was for me. I was like, dude, you can use this in so many different ways. So
I like it. No, I love it. I love it. So tell us what life looks like professionally for you now that you've solved the problem or the challenge, or as it's being solved. What does life look like today as the COO?
now that I have this certification,
Mhm. Yes.
um, well, I ask questions very differently now. And I I kind of smirk when I start to ask my coaching questions because I'm like, this is now becoming more and more natural just
Yeah.
by pure repetition of putting in the 15 hours of peer-to-peer coaching and the bartering system and then all of the mentor coaching. And I was like, okay, this is becoming more and more, it's becoming easier and easier
Mhm.
because it's becoming more and more natural, pardon me.
Yeah.
And so um it's going to change how I dialogue with people. And from my point of view, we have to negotiate contracts with property owners and things like that all over the world, and
Mhm.
so this will also help me to be able to move those questions into that as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. On the professional side, what about the personal side? How do you think the program has helped you personally?
It's um it's really given me, I consider myself a pretty confident person, but it's really given me even more confidence to um, go into a situation where I don't have the answer going in. And so it's really helped me kind of frame my dialogue differently
Mhm.
into trying to find the source of the solution, which is usually coming from the source of the problem. And so I'm able to really kind of articulate that a lot better. So that has really personally helped me figure that out.
So on the communication side, that's an
Hmm.
area that's grown. Okay.
Big time.
Excellent. Excellent. So I'm going to take you back a little bit and ask you the question, what initially grabbed your attention about the program? What was oh, I've got to check this out.
It was I continually want to find ways to improve myself. And I was was really um, curious. In fact, to be frank, the life coach side of it
Mhm.
wasn't really interesting to me. It was really more of the professional and executive side of
Executive
it that
coaching.
really, and even in our peer coaching labs and mentor coaching labs, the other coach would be like, and I'm a life coach. And I'm like, I've never said that. Why have I never said that? I'm like, why? And it's not that it's positive or negative. It's just
Yeah.
I had found myself leaning to really want to be a better coach
Mhm.
and from what I thought was coaching. And so
Yeah.
this kind of helped me realize there's different styles of coaching.
Yeah.
Um and so this just opened my eyes to something I'd never seen before. And so I was very, very curious. I remember talking with you. It was about 11 months ago now, 10 or 11 months ago. We'd seen each other 11 months ago, and the next month we were talking
Mhm.
after a big conference we were at, and you had presented this, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in, I'm in,
Yeah.
I'm in, I'm in. When do we start? And
Yeah.
so it was really, yeah, I was super excited.
And you brought up a really good point. We started with the life coaching certification. And the
Hmm.
reality is, if you learn how to become a certified coach, then really whether you go into life coaching, executive coaching, or marriage coaching, you're
Hmm.
still using the same principles. You may
Right.
be speaking with different people, but it still applies in each
Hmm.
one. And obviously, with the executive coaching, we go into more sales skills and things like that, which can sharpen some of those things. But
Hmm.
all in all, yeah, you can coach anyone. Before you started the program, were there any hesitations or doubts before you started that eventually were resolved?
None. I well, I didn't know how long it was. I didn't know how much work it was actually going to take.
Mhm.
And so that was kind of a once I saw the list of all the videos and how long each of them was, I was like, oh, okay, this is not a 1 month weekend project. I'm gonna have to stick with this every single week, multiple times a week, and not fall behind because then catch up is gonna be terrible. So, but no major hesitations. I wanted to do this from the beginning.
Okay. So you talked about one of the problems within your leadership with the other pastors and
Hmm.
missionaries. Was there another problem that you feel the program helped you to solve besides working with them and having some form of scalability and process to how you coach them?
I work with outside of our ministry organization. I have some business partners that I've done some business with,
Mhm.
and this has really kind of helped me look into that because it's out of my field completely, this business partnership that I have, but I want to be able to speak into it on a professional level. And so knowing that I'm a certified coach
Yeah.
will really kind of give me an edge to say, hey, I've taken this class. It's actually taken me almost a year to complete, 75 hours worth of classwork and training and testing.
Mhm.
And so I want to ask you guys some questions, and some of them are going to be tough questions. And I think I'll have now the leverage to
Yeah.
ask that and really be like, but why are we spending, or why are you spending this much energy or cost or money or time or effort into this part of that program when it's not producing?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Help me understand that. And so it's going to help me on that tier as well on a personal level, um, to speak into that.
Okay. So we talked about the opportunity to become a certified coach. You brought us back a little bit to what were the motivations, what were some of the challenges. Let's go
Mm.
into the second part, which is the transformation. This is the personal and professional change. And
Mhm.
you already alluded to it earlier, but how has the certified coach program empowered you to serve others with more confidence, clarity, or skill?
It's it's helped me in all of those areas.
Okay.
Um, when even in my the final submission, the peer coaching lab, is that what it is?
Yeah, the coach
Uh,
performance lab.
Coach Performance Lab. When I had that made that recording, it was with a friend of mine who has been in ministry. He's been serving in our ministry since he was a teenager. He was saved in our ministry, grew up in our ministry, and and then became a pastor in July of 20 July it became a pastor in 2020 and then began pastoring a church that his pastor had pastored for more like 2 decades in July of 2020 when COVID was just and over here it was terrible. It was major lockdowns. There were blocking streets. I mean it was terrible.
Yeah.
And so here's this brand new pastor in his 20s trying to like single like he'd already fallen in love. He has this girl that he really wants to marry and so he has all these different things going all at the same time and so I've known him for a long time and to sit with him and to go over this peer coaching with him or coaching lab with him performance lab and to hear him go into a dialogue about his relationship with his wife, which he's a newlywed, he's only been married for less than 2 years. um I felt a little when he started going down that path, I felt very inadequate
Mhm.
to speak into that. And what really happened was I sat there with my list of questions that I usually say and questions that I usually forget, and I had them ready and kind of worked through the sheet. And I was sitting there and I'm in the middle, I'm having like this my own like epiphany as he's talking, trying to pay attention, going, oh my gosh, this totally works in every single format. Like even in an area where I don't feel that this is
It's your
my
strength. Yeah.
forte,
Sure.
my strength, I still will have the ability to speak into it by simply asking good questions. And so that was really, really valuable to me. And it was because of that coaching call that um really prompted me to sign up for your marriage certification as well. And literally that one call had got me to sign up for the next one because I realized I need to have this in my repertoire of skills to help families and couples and marriages.
And that goes back to what we said earlier, Luke, with the fact that you are now a certified coach, you can you can move into any area, even
Hmm.
in totally unfamiliar areas or industries. And as long as you're following the process, we always say the client determines the progress, we determine the process according to the ICF. And
Hmm.
with that, it just gives you freedom. And you're right, you can coach a couple, you can coach somebody who's single, married, or somebody that runs a Fortune 500 company. And as long as we're applying the principles, we can help them. We can help them to do more than they could even imagine themselves. Are there
Hmm.
any other ways that you felt the program empowered you as you became a certified coach?
The certification alone, I think, pardon me, has been valuable because for the past probably about 8 years, maybe 10 years, probably 10 years, um, I and a couple of the men have in the service industry here in the Philippines. Um, it's there. They're running like a 7 out of 10, and
Mhm.
I think that they can move to a 9 or 10 if they get the right training. And so I've been working on material, what I can do to help these hotels and restaurants to really move to the next international level instead of just a local level of professionalism. And I believe that this certification, I can use this as part of my credentials
Mhm.
in saying, hey, I'm actually a certified coach. I really would like to talk to you about this. It's an international certification, it's not a local
Yeah,
certification. And being in the Philippines and being certified from the United States really bears a lot of weight.
sure.
And so I'll be able to use that as well and actually give me more, not more material, but give me more of a certified stamp of approval to say, hey, we know what we're talking about. We want
Yeah.
to help you. It's not just our opinions as Americans to say this. It's an international
Yeah.
look at it from serving in multiple different nations on how you can move up and quit just being a normal restaurant or a normal hotel. You can actually outperform everybody by simply making these few adjustments that don't cost you any money,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and you may start with, hey, here's some training that we can do, and we can follow it up with coaching. And
Hmm.
that, to your point, we can help take them to the next level.
Right.
As you think about new growth, you mentioned communication, you mentioned negotiation. Is there any other area that you can think of where you would say, I think the coaching program has opened the door for this new area of growth in my life?
Peer-to-peer coaching and in the bartering system
Mhm.
that we had to do. Originally, I thought it was if I coached you and you coached me, that counts as two. And I was like, okay, I was halfway through and I thought I was 95% done. And then I realized I'm only halfway done.
Yeah, we
So
done.
that was shocking. But it was also so good, because that did two things for me. What I really, really appreciated about the peer coaching is that it did two things. One, it helped me hone my skills.
Mhm.
I become more naturalized, and I wasn't just reading from a list. By the end of it, I had some notes that I would keep near me, but I wasn't reviewing an entire sheet of questions trying to pick what's my next question. I was actually able to engage deeper with the client and do that. The second is, as a client, when I was bartering and doing peer coaching, it allowed me to bring up a couple things that I actually did want coaching on,
Mhm.
and was able to hear multiple different coaches say sometimes the same thing as well and give me the same answer. And actually, it was never the same answer, it was the same questions. And then other times they would give me questions I'd never even thought about. And so it really kind of put me in a good space,
Yeah.
in a good spot in myself. One of them was about writing a book, one of them was about dealing with some finances, one of them was about, investing. And so it really kind of gave me room to think and do that when I wasn't just talking to family or other people in my group of my circle. And so that ended up being like a totally unexpected benefit and blessing.
I like that. That's really good. So we talked about the opportunity to become a coach. We talked
Hmm.
about the professional and the personal transformation. The
Hmm.
last part is the ownership experience. And this is really where we just take a few minutes to try to encourage other people who are watching your story of change and transformation, really consider taking the next step to becoming a coach. So,
Mm.
if someone was on the fence right now, if they're watching this video and they're on the fence about whether or not they should become a certified executive coach or life coach or marriage coach, what would you tell them?
The program that Marcel and Imagine Certification has put together was actually, quite frankly, was significantly more than I'd ever expected. And it was, at first I was like, this is gonna be great. And when I got done, I was like, this was incredible. I can't believe, and it wasn't one of those, I should have done this years ago. It wasn't that at
Right.
all. It was very much like, wow, the timing of this in my life at where I am now in my 40s
Mhm.
is perfect, because I have just enough life experience to speak into
Mhm.
and ask questions of, oh, I've experienced something like that. How would you do it? I'm not young enough that I'm just advising, but I'm also not old enough that everyone's like, okay, let's talk to the old sage and see what he has to say. And so it's really hit me in this really cool sweet spot, and the skills that I've been able to pick up from this, I'm using in so many different areas, not just coaching.
Yeah.
And it's in leadership. I use it in parenting. I try not to use it in my marriage because my wife knows I'm pulling a coaching card on her. But
You're
it's
not telling her, babe, let's establish a session goal here.
yeah. Tell me what's really important here.
That's right.
Um, but and ironically, and it's kind of funny because my wife was sitting in the room during a couple of my calls and in our office at her desk. And then I found out later that she had asked a couple of the questions that she had heard us using, or me using, or heard other people asking during a call. And she used it in a conversation with a young lady that she
Yeah.
was discipling. And she asked that question, and the answers she got back, she's sitting there with her eyebrows up, like, wow, I didn't realize that was going to be such a resonating question.
Wow.
And doing that. And so it's doing that. The second and third, or whatever number I'm on, thing is, when I can ask deep, meaningful questions. And that's one of the greatest skills that I learned
Mhm.
from this, is one, listening for the cues of what is really going on at the heart of the problem, or the center of the curiosity, or the center of the shift, or like whatever's happening in that
Mhm.
person's heart. I almost hate using the word client, but in that
Yeah.
person's life.
Sure.
this training has equipped me and given me not just an Instagram or Pinterest post with ask these great questions when you're in a dialogue with somebody. It has really turned into here's how you can get to the heart of the problem. Here's how you can get to the heart of the solution.
Mhm.
And we're not trying to identify the problem. The client's already coming with a problem. We're now helping them find their own solution.
Yeah.
And the questions that come up from this, and some of them are not even on the list.
Sure.
It's like a natural byproduct of this of the coaching product. I've asked questions before and nearly hit the mute button. It was like, where did that come from? Like I don't. And so it's just if you're
Let
on
me
the
patent that question, you know.
yeah, no kidding. So if you're on the fence, this the amount of skills that you use in multiple layers of life
Mhm.
is dynamic, and yeah, dynamic is probably the best way to put it. And it will dynamically impact relationships that you have, professional relationships, people who you are working with who are above you and at your same level and below you.
Mhm.
If you're in ministry, it'll dynamically change the way you're looking at discipleship and looking at your church volunteers and things like that. And it will, yeah, you should not be on the fence. You should be in all the way.
Okay. And then just to add to that, what would you tell them as far as why you believe now's the right time? Instead of waiting another 6 months, another year, why start now and not postpone?
I have found that I have more time now than I ever will in the future. And when I look back, I recognize how much free time I had in the past. And I wish I had all the extra free time I had before I had kids or before when I was in college or like, back you just the further you look back, the more free time you had. And whether you're a busy parent or professional or pastor or minister, this is the time because you will find an abundant amount of opportunities even halfway through the course
Mhm.
of how you can start coaching and helping people. And it changes. It's like you're getting a new pair of lenses and you can all of a sudden see things from a very different perspective, a very different light. And my attitude I spent a lot of time coaching young pastors, and my attitude in that coaching session has shifted, not positive or negative, but has
Mhm.
shifted into a different angle of appreciation for what they're doing and how can I ask questions that will help them increase their own level of confidence to pastor and to lead at a new level.
Mhm.
And because that's ultimately what it is. I don't want to
Sure.
sit there and try and help them by giving them answers or solutions. If I can change and dynamically change the way they look at their own life and ministry in their church that they're pastoring or leading,
Yeah.
or the other leaders they have in their group,
Yeah.
and they can come up with their own solutions, then they're owning it, and
Yeah.
it's theirs completely. And that's ultimately what I want because if we're going to be planting 1,000 churches, we need these guys to completely own it on their own.
Yeah, and that goes back to the scalability part. If they have to, I've got to call Luke every time I have an issue. I have to
Mhm.
call Luke every time I need to make a
Right.
purchase. It's not scalable and it's not going to
Hmm.
happen. Well, Luke, I really do appreciate your time, and it was great having you in the program. And I had a lot of fun. I really did. I learned a lot from the students. I got some coaching
Hmm.
myself in the process. And that's the beauty of this. Whether you are a student coach or you just got certified or you've been coaching for 10 years, you can still get coaching. You can still develop,
Mm.
grow, and overcome challenges because new challenges come up every day. And sometimes just hearing someone else giving you the space that you need to process your thoughts and then not judge you, but just open up that space that we all want. Someone to
Hmm.
listen attentively, someone to ask good questions. I mean, it really can empower us to make a big difference. So thank you again. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.